The sizzling aroma of fresh coffee filled the cozy diner as Emily rushed between tables, her uniform slightly wrinkled from the long hours. It was just another exhausting day, until her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, changed everything. The moment Lily spotted the sharply dressed man at table 7, her little feet took off. "Daddy!" she cried, her tiny arms flinging around his waist. The restaurant fell into stunned silence. Emily's heart stopped. Her tray nearly slipped from her hands. She had not seen that man in 7 years. And yet, here he was, sitting in her section, looking as powerful and wealthy as ever. Michael Carter, the self-made millionaire she once loved. Welcome back to my channel. If you love emotional, shocking, and unforgettable stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Michael stiffened, his deep blue eyes locking onto Emily's. Confusion flickered across his face before it twisted into shock. His gaze shifted down to the little girl hugging him tightly. "Daddy?" His voice was barely a whisper. Emily felt the weight of every secret she had buried come crashing down. Michael sat frozen, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. The little girl clinging to his waist was calling him daddy. But how? His sharp, calculating mind, the same one that built his empire from the ground up, failed him in that moment. He looked up at Emily, searching for answers, but all he saw in her eyes was sheer panic. Emily's hands trembled as she quickly set her tray down and rushed to her daughter. She gently pulled Lily away, forcing a smile despite the storm raging inside her. "Sweetheart, you must be mistaken," she whispered, her voice barely steady. "Come with me." But Lily frowned, looking between her mother and Michael. "No, Mommy. That is Daddy. You showed me his picture." Her innocent words cut through the tension like a knife. Michael's entire body tensed. His heart pounded against his ribs. His picture? His mind reeled as he stood, his tall frame towering over Emily. "Emily," he said slowly, his voice dangerously low. "What is she talking about?" The entire diner was watching now. Customers whispered among themselves, eyes darting between the three of them. Emily's breath hitched. She had spent years preparing for the day she might run into Michael again, but never like this. Not in the middle of a packed diner. Not with their daughter unknowingly exposing the very secret she had sworn to protect. I can explain," she stammered. But Michael's piercing gaze burned into her. "Not here." Michael clenched his jaw. His eyes flicked to Lily, and something inside him cracked. There was no denying it now. The little girl had his deep blue eyes, the same ones he saw in the mirror every morning. He turned to his assistant, who had been sitting at the table in stunned silence. "Clear my schedule," he commanded. His tone left no room for argument. Then, without looking away from Emily, he said, "We are talking. Now." Emily had no choice but to nod, her pulse racing. She knew there was no escaping this. Michael Carter was about to uncover the one truth that could change everything. Emily's hands felt clammy as she led Michael outside, away from the prying eyes and murmuring voices inside the diner. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the pavement, but the heat between them was more intense than anything the weather could offer. Lily clung to her mother's hand, oblivious to the storm raging beneath Michael's calm yet deadly expression. The moment they reached a quieter corner, Michael turned to her, his face unreadable, but his voice sharp as a blade. "Tell me the truth, Emily. Is she mine?" Emily inhaled sharply. Every fiber of her being wanted to deny it, to protect the life she had built. But one look at Lily's expectant face, and she knew. Lying was not an option anymore. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "She is your daughter." Michael's breath hitched. His entire world tilted as he stared at the little girl who shared his features, his blood. His mind raced, flashing back to the night Emily had left without a word, vanishing like a ghost. He had searched for her, but she had disappeared. And now, all these years later, she stood before him with a child he had never known existed. His fists clenched. "You kept my daughter from me?" For 6 years. His voice was dangerously low, laced with betrayal. Emily swallowed hard, her own anger rising. You do not understand, Michael. I had no choice. No choice. He cut her off, his eyes burning into hers. You had every choice, Emily. But you chose to erase me from my daughter's life. Tears burned the back of Emily's eyes. She had expected his rage, but hearing it was different. I did what I thought was best for her, she said, her voice breaking. You were going to marry someone else, Michael. I saw the engagement announcement. What was I supposed to do? Beg to stay? Michael flinched. His engagement, yes. It had been arranged by his family, a business merger rather than love. But that did not matter now. What mattered was that Emily had left, and she had taken his child with her. Lily tugged on his sleeve, her innocent voice breaking the tension. Daddy? Are you mad at Mommy? Michael looked down at his daughter, his heart clenching at the word daddy. He had missed her first words, her first steps, her first everything. And Emily had stolen that from him. He took a deep breath, his voice calmer but firm. We are not done here, Emily. I will not walk away from my daughter. You do not get to decide that anymore. Emily's stomach twisted. She had feared this moment for years. And now, the past she had fought to keep buried was coming back with a force she could not stop. Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Michael's words were not just a warning, they were a declaration. He was not going to let this go. And deep down, she had always known that if he ever found out about Lily, he would fight to be in her life. She clutched Lily's hand tighter, her mind racing. Michael, please, we cannot do this here. Not in front of her, she whispered, her voice desperate. Michael exhaled sharply, forcing himself to stay calm. His eyes flicked to Lily, who was watching them with wide, curious eyes. He could not afford to lose control. Not now. Not when his daughter was standing right in front of him, looking at him like he was a stranger. You are right, he finally said, his voice measured. But this conversation is not over, Emily. I need answers. Emily hesitated before nodding. Fine, after my shift. Meet me at the park down the street. Michael's jaw tensed. He hated waiting, but he had no choice. He glanced at Lily once more, then turned and walked away, his mind a storm of emotions. The rest of Emily's shift dragged on in agonizing slowness. She could feel the whispers of her coworkers, the curious glances from customers who had witnessed the scene earlier, but nothing mattered more than what awaited her after work. By the time she arrived at the park with Lily, the sun had dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the playground. Michael was already there, leaning against his sleek black car, his suit jacket draped over one arm. He looked just as powerful and untouchable as he had all those years ago, but there was something different in his eyes now. Something raw. Lily ran ahead, spotting the swings. Mommy, can I play? Emily nodded quickly. Stay where I can see you, sweetheart. As soon as Lily ran off, Michael spoke. Start from the beginning, Emily. No lies, no excuses. Tell me everything. Emily's throat tightened. After we broke up, I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified, Michael. You were already moving on. Your family was arranging your engagement. I knew you would never choose me over them. Michael's eyes darkened. So you decided for me? His voice was sharp, laced with disbelief. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. I was protecting my child. I grew up knowing what it feels like to be unwanted, and I refused to put her through that. I did not want her to be some secret you had to hide. Michael let out a bitter laugh. A secret? Emily, I lost 6 years with my daughter. Do you have any idea what you have done? Emily's heart shattered. She had always known this day would come, but she had never expected it to hurt this much. Michael stepped closer, his voice low and controlled. I am not walking away, Emily. I do not care what you thought back then. Lily is mine, and I will fight for her if I have to. Emily swallowed hard. Are you saying you want custody? Michael's eyes locked onto hers. I want my daughter in my life, and if you try to stop me, Emily, I will take you to court. Emily felt her entire world crash down around her. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The weight of Michael's words settled deep in her chest like a heavy stone. I will take you to court. She had spent years protecting Lily, giving her the best life she could on her own. And now, in a matter of minutes, everything was slipping through her fingers. She forced herself to stay calm. Michael, please. You cannot just walk in and threaten to take her away. She does not even know you. Michael's jaw tightened, his blue eyes stormy. Because you made that choice for her. For me. His voice was dangerously low. But I will not let you keep her from me any longer. She is my daughter, Emily. I have missed everything. Her first words, her first steps, her birthdays. And you expect me to just accept that? Emily swallowed back tears, shaking her head. I never wanted to hurt you, Michael. I was scared. You were engaged. Your world was nothing like mine. I thought... You thought wrong, he snapped, cutting her off. You should have told me. Emily looked away, her hands trembling. And what if I had? Would you have left your fiancé? Would you have fought for us? Michael's silence was deafening. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. The truth was, he did not know. His family had arranged his engagement for power, for legacy. Back then, he had felt trapped, but he had played along because it was expected. If Emily had told him about Lily, would he have had the courage to walk away? I cannot change the past, he finally said, his voice calmer but firm. But I can change the future, and I will. Lily is mine too, Emily. You do not get to decide that anymore. Emily's heart pounded. She had spent years preparing for the day Michael found out, but nothing had prepared her for the fire in his eyes, the sheer determination radiating from him. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Do not do this to me. Michael's gaze softened just slightly, but his resolve remained. This is not about you, Emily. It is about her. He looked over at Lily, who was happily swinging, her laughter filling the air. His expression darkened. She deserves to know her father. Emily wiped at her eyes, knowing she was out of options. Michael was not bluffing. If she fought him, she knew he had the money, the power, and the resources to take this to court, and she could not risk losing her daughter completely. Fine, she whispered, defeated. But on my terms. Michael arched a brow. What terms? You do not just get to walk in and play dad overnight. She needs time. We will do this slowly. Michael studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Fine. But make no mistake, Emily. I am not going anywhere. I lost 6 years. I will not lose another day. Emily closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. She had fought so hard to keep Lily safe. But now, she was about to lose the one thing she had spent her whole life protecting. And deep down, she knew. This was just the beginning. Emily could barely sleep that night. Her mind was a battlefield of emotions, fear, regret, and an unsettling feeling that she was losing control. She had spent 6 years building a world for Lily where they were safe, where no one could take her away. And now, in one night, Michael had shattered that illusion. The next morning, she forced herself to stay composed as she prepared breakfast. Lily sat at the table, humming to herself as she played with her cereal. She had no idea how much her little world was about to change. Sweetheart, Emily finally said, her voice careful. Remember the man from the restaurant yesterday? The one you hugged? Lily looked up, her big brown eyes curious. Mr. Michael? Emily nodded. Her heart pounded in her chest. Yes, baby. Well, I need to tell you something very important. Lily tilted her head. What is it, Mommy? Emily took a deep breath. Michael. He is not just a customer. He is your... She swallowed hard. He is your father. For a moment, silence filled the room. Lily blinked, her spoon frozen mid-air. My dad? Emily forced a smile, even as her hands trembled. Yes, sweetheart. He did not know about you before, but now he does, and he really wants to spend time with you. Lily's face scrunched up as she processed the words. Then, suddenly, a wide grin spread across her face. "I have a dad?" she whispered in awe, as if the thought had never even crossed her mind. Emily's heart ached. She had always told Lily that families came in different shapes, that not everyone had a mom and dad together. And Lily had never questioned it. But now, seeing the excitement on her little face, Emily realized just how much her daughter had secretly wished for something more. "Can I see him today?" Lily asked, bouncing in her seat. Emily hesitated. "If you want to, yes. But only for a little while, okay?" Lily nodded eagerly. "I want to." Emily forced another smile, but her stomach churned with unease. She had no idea what today would bring. A few hours later, Emily and Lily arrived at the cafe where she had agreed to meet Michael. He was already there, sitting at an outdoor table, his sharp navy blue suit looking effortlessly perfect. But his usual cold, businesslike demeanor was gone. Instead, there was a nervousness in his eyes, an anticipation she had never seen before. When Lily spotted him, she let out an excited squeal and ran straight toward him. "Daddy!" Michael's breath hitched. The word hit him like a freight train. He barely had time to react before Lily crashed into him, wrapping her tiny arms around his waist. For a moment, he was frozen. Then, slowly, he knelt down, his arms wrapping around her in a way that felt so natural, so right. His throat tightened. "Hey, sweetheart." His voice was raw, thick with emotion. Emily watched from a distance, her chest tightening. She had expected Lily to be shy, hesitant, but instead, she had embraced Michael instantly, as if some invisible bond had always existed between them. Michael pulled back slightly, studying her face, her little features that were a reflection of his own. "You are even more beautiful up close," he murmured. Lily giggled. "Mommy says I look like a princess." Michael smiled. "Well, she is right." His gaze lifted to Emily, unreadable emotions flickering in his eyes. "I should have been here for you," he said softly, as if speaking to both of them. Emily's throat tightened, but she said nothing. Lily tugged on Michael's hand. "Can we play?" Michael chuckled. "Of course, princess. Whatever you want." As he took her to the nearby playground, Emily sat at the table, watching them. A strange, unsettling feeling twisted inside her. She had feared this moment for so long, had convinced herself that Lily was better off without Michael. But now, as she saw the way Michael looked at their daughter, the way he held her hand so protectively, she realized something terrifying. She might not be able to stop herself from losing Lily, not to the courts, but to Michael's love. Emily sat frozen, her coffee untouched as she watched Michael and Lily at the playground. Every laugh, every excited squeal from her daughter twisted something deep inside her. Michael was not just some absent father trying to make up for lost time. He was slipping into Lily's life so effortlessly, as if he had been there all along. Lily had always been a happy child, but there was something different about her today. Something Emily had never seen before. A new kind of joy, a completeness. And that terrified her. After nearly an hour of playing, Michael finally led Lily back to the table, holding her little hand protectively in his. His face was softer, his usual hardened features replaced by something vulnerable. "She is incredible," he said as they sat down. Emily forced a tight smile. "I know." Lily climbed into her chair, her face still glowing with excitement. "Mommy, guess what? Daddy says he is going to take me to the zoo and the aquarium, and he said I can ride a real pony one day." Emily's stomach clenched. She could already see where this was going. Michael was a billionaire. He could give Lily the world, everything Emily had struggled to provide on her own. "That sounds fun, sweetheart," she said carefully. Then she turned to Michael, her voice lowering. "I thought we agreed to take this slow." Michael leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "I am just spending time with my daughter. I am not going to sit back and watch her grow up from the sidelines." Emily exhaled sharply. "And what happens when she gets attached? What if this is temporary for you, Michael? What if—" It is not temporary. His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. I have lost too much time already. I am not walking away. Lily looked between them, sensing the tension. Are you guys mad? She asked, her small voice breaking the moment. Michael immediately softened. No, princess. Not at all. He smiled at her before turning back to Emily. Look, I understand why you are scared, but you need to trust me. Emily stared at him. Trust? That was the one thing she had never been able to do with him. Let us do this the right way, Michael continued. I do not want to fight with you, Emily, but I will, if I have to. Emily's hands balled into fists under the table. She knew what that meant. Michael had money, power, and connections. If he wanted to take legal action, she did not stand a chance. Fine, she said stiffly. But no big promises to her. No buying her love. Michael's lips twitched. I do not need to buy anything, Emily. She already loves me. Emily's chest tightened. He was right. And that scared her more than anything. Lily yawned, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Mommy, can we go home now? Emily hesitated. Michael looked like he wanted to say something, but he held back. Of course, baby, she said, standing up. As they walked away, Michael's voice stopped her. Emily. She turned back. I want more time with her. His gaze was unwavering. And I am not asking. Emily's heart pounded. She did not respond. She just turned and walked away, gripping Lily's hand tightly. But deep inside, she knew this was far from over. And something told her that Michael was about to change their lives forever. Emily barely made it through the night. Sleep eluded her as she tossed and turned, her mind trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the way Lily had looked at Michael. The pure admiration, the joy, the innocent love of a child finally meeting the father she never knew. By morning, Emily had made a decision. She needed to set boundaries before things spiraled out of control. She had spent years protecting Lily from heartbreak, and she was not about to let Michael waltz into their lives and upend everything. She arrived at work with a pounding heart. The restaurant was already busy, but Emily barely noticed. She was too lost in thought until she spotted him. Michael. He was sitting at the same table as before, dressed sharply in a tailored gray suit, looking like he owned the world. But what caught Emily off guard was the small pink gift bag sitting on the table beside him. Her chest tightened as she approached. What are you doing here, Michael? He glanced up, his blue eyes calm yet unreadable. I wanted to see you. Emily folded her arms. If this is about Lily. It is. His tone was firm. I want to be part of her life, Emily. Not just for an hour here and there. I want real time with her. Emily inhaled sharply. Michael, you cannot just decide that now. She barely knows you. His jaw tensed. And whose fault is that? She stiffened. I did what I had to do. Michael exhaled slowly, reining in his frustration. I am not here to fight. I want a chance. A real chance to be her father. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he had no right. But deep down, she knew she was running out of excuses. Michael reached for the gift bag and slid it toward her. This is for Lily. Emily hesitated before peeking inside. Nestled in the tissue paper was a small, delicate silver bracelet, with Lily's name engraved on it. Something in Emily's chest cracked. She does not need expensive gifts, she whispered. Michael's voice softened. It is not about the gift, Emily. It is about what it means. Emily swallowed hard. She was not ready for this. She was not ready for Michael to break down every wall she had built. Let me take her out for the day, Michael said. Just a few hours. We can go to the zoo, like she wanted. Emily's pulse quickened. The idea of Michael and Lily spending a whole day together felt like losing another piece of her. But before she could respond, a tiny voice interrupted. Mommy! Emily turned, and there was Lily, standing at the restaurant entrance with her babysitter. Michael's face lit up instantly. "Hey, princess!" Lily beamed. "Daddy!" She ran straight to him, throwing her arms around his waist like she had known him forever. Michael lifted her effortlessly, holding her close. "I missed you," he murmured. Lily giggled. "I missed you too." Then she noticed the gift bag on the table. "Is that for me?" Michael smiled. "Yes, sweetheart." Emily watched helplessly as Lily eagerly reached inside and pulled out the bracelet. Her eyes widened. "Mommy, look! It has my name on it!" Emily forced a smile. "It is very pretty, baby." Lily turned to Michael. "Can I wear it now?" "Of course," he said, gently slipping it onto her wrist. Lily admired it, then looked up at Michael with pure happiness. "Does this mean you are going to be my daddy forever?" Michael's expression softened. "Yes, princess. Forever." Emily felt something shatter inside her, because for the first time, she was starting to believe him. Emily felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Watching Michael slip that bracelet onto Lily's wrist felt like watching her carefully built walls crumble, piece by piece. The look in Lily's eyes, pure joy, trust, and innocence, terrified her. Because if Michael let her down, it would not just break Lily's heart, it would destroy her. Lily looked up at Emily with hopeful eyes. "Mommy, can I go with Daddy today? Please?" Emily's breath hitched. She was not ready for this. She was not ready to let Michael take their daughter out into the world alone. But before she could answer, Michael spoke. "I promise to take care of her, Emily." His voice was steady, sure. "I will have her back exactly when you say." Emily hesitated. The last thing she wanted was to give Michael control, but a part of her knew this moment was inevitable. She had spent years shielding Lily, keeping her world small and safe. But Michael was opening a door Emily could not close anymore. She knelt beside Lily, brushing a loose curl from her face. "Okay, baby, but only for a little while, all right?" Lily squealed in excitement and threw her arms around Emily. "Thank you, Mommy." Michael's eyes met Emily's, filled with something deep and unreadable. "You will not regret this." Emily wanted to believe that, but as she watched Michael carry Lily out the door, a sinking feeling settled in her chest. Hours passed, and Emily could barely focus at work. She kept checking her phone, half expecting Michael to call with bad news, but there was nothing, just radio silence. It was nearly evening when her phone finally buzzed. "Michael, we are outside." Emily grabbed her things and rushed out of the restaurant. The moment she stepped outside, she froze. Michael was standing beside his sleek black car, holding a sleeping Lily in his arms. Her head rested against his shoulder, her tiny bracelet glinting in the evening light. Emily's chest tightened. She had never seen Lily sleep so peacefully in anyone's arms but hers. Michael carefully adjusted Lily in his arms. "She had the best day of her life," he said softly. Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. "She looks happy." "She is happy." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "And she deserves this, Emily. She deserves both of us." Emily wanted to argue, wanted to remind him of the years he had missed. But looking at him now, holding their daughter so protectively, so naturally, she knew this battle was no longer just about her feelings. It was about Lily. Michael gently handed Lily over, and as Emily took her, their hands brushed. It sent a jolt through her, something she was not ready to acknowledge. As she held Lily close, Michael spoke again, his voice laced with something deeper. "I am not going anywhere, Emily. You need to accept that." Emily met his gaze, and for the first time in years, she saw something she never expected. Regret. Regret for the lost time. Regret for leaving. Regret for breaking her heart. And in that moment, Emily knew one thing for sure. This was far from over. Emily stood frozen, holding Lily in her arms, Michael's words echoing in her mind. "I am not going anywhere." For years, she had imagined this moment, Michael showing up, realizing what he had lost, and begging to be in their lives. But now that it was happening, She did not know what to do with the storm raging inside her. She had spent so long resenting him. She had rehearsed 1,000 ways to tell him off, to remind him of the pain he had caused. And yet, here he was, standing in front of her, not as the cold and distant man she once knew, but as a father, desperate to be in his daughter's life. And the worst part? Lily already loved him. Emily took a shaky breath and turned toward the door. I need to put her to bed. Michael nodded, stepping back, but before she could walk away, he spoke again. Emily. She paused, gripping the doorknob. His voice was lower now, filled with something raw. I know I do not deserve it, but I am asking for a second chance, not just with Lily, with you. Emily's heart slammed against her ribs. She turned slowly, meeting his gaze. Michael. Please, he cut in, stepping closer. I messed up. I made the biggest mistake of my life when I left you, and I swear, if I could take back every second of those years, I would. His voice cracked slightly, the weight of his guilt finally breaking through. But I cannot. All I can do now is prove to you that I will never walk away again. Emily swallowed hard, emotions clashing inside her. Do you think it is that simple? That you can just show up, say the right words, and everything will go back to the way it was? No, he admitted. I know I have to earn it, and I will, no matter how long it takes. She hated how much she wanted to believe him. Emily. His voice softened. Do you still love me? Her breath caught. For years she had told herself she had moved on, that the love she once had for him was long dead. But standing here, with Lily still curled against her chest, her daughter's bracelet, the one Michael gave her, glinting in the dim light, she realized something terrifying. She never stopped loving him. Tears burned at the back of her eyes as she whispered, I do not know if I can forgive you. Michael nodded, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Then let me spend the rest of my life trying to change that. Emily exhaled shakily, looking down at Lily's peaceful face. She had spent so many years fearing that Michael would hurt them again. But maybe, just maybe, he was finally ready to stay. And for the first time in a long time, Emily let herself hope.